To truly grasp the ongoing territorial disputes over Sabah between Malaysia and the Philippines, which claims to be the successor state of the Sultanate of Sulu, we need to delve into the rich history and strategic geography of this region. Let's journey back in time to uncover how an arbitration award of $14.9 billion was granted to the heirs of the Sultanate. Sabah, situated on the northern tip of Borneo in Southeast Asia, is now one of the 13 states of Malaysia, along with its 3 federal territories. Back in the 15th century, the area known today as Sabah was part of the Sultanate of Brunei under the rule of its 5th Sultan, Bolkiah. Fast forward to 1658, and we see the Sultan of Brunei ceding the northern and eastern parts of Borneo to the Sultanate of Sulu. This act was a reward for the latter's assistance in resolving the Brunei Civil War. In 1761, Alexander Dalrymple, an officer of the British East India Company, concluded an agreement with the Sultan of Sulu to allow him to set up a trading post in the region. It was been formalized in 1878 when William Cowie, on behalf of Dent's Company, negotiated and obtained a concession in perpetuity from the Sultan of Sulu over its holdings in this region. This concession was signed on the 22nd of January 1878 in the palace of the Sultan of Sulu. The rights were subsequently transferred to Alfred Dent, who on the 26th of August 1881 formed the British North Borneo Provisional Association Limited. A few months after the British government granted a royal charter, and the British North Borneo Chartered Company was subsequently formed on the 1st of November. In 1888, North Borneo became a protectorate of the United Kingdom. The control and administration over North Borneo remained in the hands of the company despite being a protectorate, and they effectively ruled until 1942. During the Second World War, as part of the continuous expansion of the Empire of Japan, the North Borneo Island, including Sabah, was occupied by the Japanese from 1942 to 1945. In 1945, after the liberation from Japanese occupation, North Borneo was administered by the British military administration and became a British Crown colony until mid-1946. After the Philippines' independence from the United States on July 4, 1946, 7 British-controlled islands on the northern coast of Borneo, named Turtle Islands, including Cagayan de Towi and Mangsi Islands, were ceded to the Philippine government by the Crown Colony Government of North Borneo, but Sabah still remained part of the British Crown colony until August 31, 1963, when North Borneo attained self-government from the British Empire. Between 1961 to mid-1963, during the transition of the liberation of Sabah and the formation of Malaysia, the Kabul Commission was set up to determine whether the people of Sabah and Sarawak favored the proposed union. The Commission had found that the union was generally favored by the residents, but also noted some opposition from the people, but decided that such opposition was minor. Despite the opposition, the Commission made the recommendation without any referendum conducted, unlike the referendum conducted in Singapore. As reported by the Commission, ethnic community leaders, Sabah would eventually support the formation. Despite of some opposition, an agreement was signed, and William Good, the last governor of North Borneo, signed on behalf of the territory on the 1st of August 1962, putting to paper the agreement to form the union. Initially, the unification of Sabah to Malaysia was scheduled on August 31, 1963, but due to objections from the Philippines and Indonesia, the formation had to be postponed to the 16th of September 1963. At that time, North Borneo, currently known as Sabah, was united with Malaya, Sarawak, and Singapore to form Malaysia. On the 12th of September 1962, during President Diosdado Macapagal's administration, the Philippine government claimed the territory of North Borneo, and the full sovereignty, title, and dominion over it was ceded by the heirs of the Sultan of Sulu, Muhammad Mahakota A. Kiram I, to the Republic of the Philippines. Malaysia's claim. By then, the Philippines continue this territorial claim over North Borneo based on an agreement signed in 1878 between the Sultan of Sulu and the North Borneo Chartered Company. It maintains the position that the sovereignty of the Sultanate over the territory was not abolished, and that North Borneo was only leased to the North Borneo Chartered Company. However, Malaysia considers this dispute as a non-issue, as it interprets the 1878 agreement as a form of cession. and it deems that the residents of Sabah had exercised their right to self-determination when they joined to form the Malaysian Federation in 1963. The argument is rooted in the word pajakan in the North Borneo 1878 treaty on how it should be properly interpreted. The ambiguous term pajakan, a Malay term that could be translated as to lease or to grant and cede. In Sulu and Malay, the word pajakan essentially means that the land is pawned indefinitely in exchange for annual lease payments. To reclaim the land, the Sultanate would need to repay the entire, infinite value of the territory. The term selama-lamanya, meaning forever or in perpetuity, signifies a binding agreement that extends beyond the lifetime of the Sultan. Throughout the British administration of North Borneo, the British government continued to make these annual lease payments to the Sultan and his heirs, explicitly recorded as cession money in the receipts. In 1963, during the Mafilindo meetings, a sub-regional association in Southeast Asia comprising Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia, the heirs of the Sultanate of Sulu requested payment through the Philippine government to the federal state of Malaysia. The request has been granted by Kuala Lumpur, and the Malaysian government pays an amount considered as a cession while the Sultanate of Sulu considered the payment as a rental. The annual payment was halted after a private militant junta standoff. The annual payment was also the reason why the word pajakan in the 1878 treaty was interpreted as lease, since the nature of the lease involved the periodic payment in terms or in perpetuity. To counter this claim, Malaysia halted its payment for the reason that no one has in control over Sabah, but it opposed the hundreds of years of annual payment from the British Empire and from the new formed Malaysian Federation from 1963 to 2013. After the Malaysian government stopped making the annual rental payments, which was seen as a breach of contract, the heirs of the Sulu Sultanate took legal action. In November 2017, they initiated commercial arbitration proceedings against the Malaysian government in Madrid's High Court in Spain. When the heirs filed their claims in February 2018, Malaysia did not send any representatives to contest the dispute. They remained absent from most of the proceedings, except for brief appearances between October 25, 2019 and November 18, 2019, as well as on July 5, 2021. Despite this, a preliminary award was granted to the heirs of the Sultanate in May 2020. In response, Malaysia filed a countersuit in the Madrid High Court. The arbitration venue was later moved to a French arbitration court. In February, the French court ordered Malaysia to pay a substantial sum to the descendants of the last Sultan of Sulu to resolve the colonial-era land deal dispute. Recently, the claimants sought to seize $2 billion worth of assets from two Luxembourg-based units of Malaysia's state oil firm Petronas as part of their efforts to enforce the award. Now Malaysian assets are at risk globally in a bid to enforce a $14.9 billion arbitration award won by the heirs of the Sultanate of Sulu. Though recently Malaysia obtained a state ruling from the Paris Court of Appeal in the perception that enforcement of the award could infringe the country's sovereignty. However, the stay ruling only applies to France, while the arbitration award is applicable to the 168 states where any Malaysian government-owned asset within nations party to the UN Convention is eligible for the purposes of enforcing the award. So, who really owns Sabah? Currently, Sabah is part of Malaysia, having been incorporated into the Federation in 1963. But the future remains uncertain. Right now, the battle is between the heirs of the Sultan of Sulu, private Filipino citizens, and the Malaysian government. The Philippine government could potentially step in to represent the heirs of the Sultanate of Sulu as the successor to North Borneo. If the 1878 treaty is still binding and enforceable, Malaysia's non-payment of the annual rental since 2013 could be seen as a breach of contract. This breach could mean that control and ownership of North Borneo might revert to the heirs of the Sultanate of Sulu. This likely influenced the French arbitration court's decision to award $14.9 billion, a sum much larger than the unpaid rental for 9 years. However, the Malaysian government remains steadfast on Sabah, creating a task force to study all of Malaysia's overseas assets and to protect Sabah's security and sovereignty. But here's the real question. Was Sabah's incorporation into Malaysia legal and binding based on the 1878 treaty between the Sultanate of Sulu and the British Empire? Or does the 1878 concession treaty hold any legal weight in today's international law? Both countries need to respect any decisions from authorized arbitration proceedings and work towards a diplomatic resolution for peace. Thank you for watching. If you find this informative, kindly like and subscribe for more.